So there's this cute little place called the Witchcraft Museum, which obviously being really into spirituality, I can't wait to check out. So it's very cute from the outside. Look at this door. And then there's a little wishing well here. I'm gonna make my wish, not gonna tell anyone what it is, but and I really suggest you check this place out because it is actually really cool. Look at this cute little door. Oh, it actually goes somewhere. So this is the Museum of Witchcraft and Magic, which is based in Boscastle in Cornwall. It's home to a number of exhibits devoted to folk magic, ceremonial magic, Freemasonry and Wicca. And the first thing that I noticed about this place was just how friendly the staff were. They were so lovely. As soon as you walk in, you get this little contemplation area, and you can make your mind up whether this is an orb that I captured. So this museum was originally founded by the English folk magician Cecil Williamson in 1951, and it was originally intended to display his own personal collection of artefacts. It was called the Folklore Centre of Superstition and Witchcraft and was located in the town of Castletown in the Isle of Man. Williamson was assisted by his then friend, who was a prominent Wiccan called Gerald Gardner. However, their friendship deteriorated and Gardner purchased the museum from him in 1954. He renamed it the Museum of Magic and Witchcraft. Williamson then opened his own museum, which served as a rival back in England, and it was known as the Museum of Witchcraft. It had 2 prior locations in England, but all of them faced violent opposition. So he eventually relocated and opened up in Boscastle in 1960. In 1996, he sold the museum to Graham King, who incorporated the ritual collection of magic regalia from the Netherlands in 2000. Unfortunately, the museum was damaged and part of its collection was lost during the horrible flood that occurred in Boscastle in 2004. These magic stones were ancient glass beads that were found across sacred sites. Many of them had wavy snake-like patterns within the glass, and they were known as adder's beads. Here is a list of just some of the names of people that were put to death because they were accused of being witches. It's actually estimated that 50,000 people in Europe died due to being accused of witchcraft. About 1,000 of those were from the United Kingdom. So this is what's called a witch weighing chair, and I couldn't really get a good video of this because it was too dark. But as attitudes changed towards witchcraft, these weighing chairs were actually supposedly used to help people who had been suspected of witchcraft. The idea was to weigh them against their local church Bible. The Bible was thought of as a symbol of spiritual truth, and supposedly this could identify whether the person was a witch or not. The person was only proven to be guilty if they weighed less than the Bible. I can't imagine too many people weighed less than a Bible. The weird thinking behind this was that if witches were able to be lightweight enough to fly on a broomstick, then they must be of an unusually light weight. This practice actually spared many people from the fate of being burned at the stake. This next exhibit is called a scold's bridle, and it was a torture device used to silence women in the Middle Ages. So from the 16th to the 19th century, women that were accused of being scolds, i.e. having loose morals, were fitted with these masks that basically held their tongues with an iron gag. It had 2 purposes, one being to silence the wearer, and the second was to humiliate them, as they often paraded people wearing them around town. Having said that, there were far worse punishments around this era. This area had many charms that witches used for spells and protection ritual. People always associate dolls with hexes and spells, but they were actually more often than not used for protection rituals. I love this snail shell chain, which was used to help women with fertility problems. This next exhibit is a 2-headed piglet. There was a widespread old age belief among country living people that any freak of nature is something special and a sign to be taken notice of. Pigs were also considered very lucky in the 20th century. This little pig had been passed along a chain of people, with the last known being Mrs. Ethel Cannon in 1437. This next exhibit is very interesting, and it's the supposed story of Joan White. For many years there was a skeleton that was displayed in the museum with wires holding it together, and it was hanging in a coffin. It was said to be the corpse of Joan White, who was a fighting fairy woman of Bodmin. Cecil Williamson, the museum's owner, spent a long time trying to work out who this woman was. He found out that she was a famed clairvoyant that people would seek out for her services. She later became very aggressive due to a tooth abscess, which along with her remarkable strength made people believe that she was possessed by the devil. She was eventually incarcerated in Bodmin jail, but not actually for witchcraft, but because of public brawling. She was on display in the 1990s. There was a number of poltergeist-like activities, and they said that it was White spirit that wished to be laid to rest in a proper burial. Graham King, the museum director at the time, set about giving her the burial that she deserved, and she was finally laid to rest with some tobacco, a clay pipe, a drop of brandy, some special oils and herbs, incense, in a peaceful wooded area close to Minster Church. The intention of this rather gruesome dead mouse that was the mouse's spirit would warn other mice from coming into the same area, thus preventing mice infestations.
From you, or so I've heard. To get your goods back, you need to scratch this charm on a slate.
This was one of my favourite sections, was the curse section. Obviously, it's the most fun, and no doubt the most stereotypical. This poor guy certainly got a lot of curses on him. Look at all those nails. So this was supposedly made by a woman who wanted revenge upon a restaurant proprietor who had caused her daughter's pregnancy. So this one was made for a nurse who had drank too much on a Saturday night and gotten herself pregnant, and she wanted to have a miscarriage. Supposedly this one worked, and it was from around 1941. This image was knitted by a young recruit from the ATS, a woman's branch of the British Army, to take action against a sergeant who was bullying them. I found this really interesting. So it's the pointing bone, and it's the idea that pointing even a finger at someone is a very old form of cursing. The idea was to turn the structure so that the heron's beak points to wherever the curse is meant to be directed. And it gets some of its energy. Apparently it's super powerful. This is a ceramic toadstool representing nature as being fertile, and all things seek to procreate. Mushrooms exist to spread their spores, and sex is just a part of the great mystery of life. So this was a little statue of what they call a piskie. And if you provided food and warmth to them, then you could be given good fortune. But they also took vengeance on the rich who exploited the poor. So this was a piskie painting, and if you look carefully you'll see that one of them is dressed as a churchman. He seems to be telling the others off, and perhaps this is showing the difference between the playful ones and the ones that were perceived as dull, i.e. the church. That was way too rigid and strict to encourage playfulness. There are a few meanings to this painting though, and I'll let you make up your own mind. So this little, or should I say big guy over in the corner is Old Horny, and he is a representation of the horned god, or devil figure from traditional witchcraft. He's been through many outfit changes while he's been in this museum, and in 2016 they actually made him legs so that he could stand up. So now we go downstairs and we're in the Divination section, and I really loved this. There was some really early tarot cards and just some absolutely beautiful things in here. So this is one of the most interesting exhibits down here, and actually these are hand-designed tarot cards. So they are painted over traditional playing cards, and they've been painted over with a mixture of pencil, pen and watercolour paints. So supposedly these tarot cards have a mind of their own, and they are constantly moving and spinning each time they are left, and it's always different cards and different places, so they do really have a mind of their own. This was another one of my favourite pieces, which used to belong to a witch from King's Cross. So as you're leaving, you see this beautiful piece which is called the Wheel of the Year, and it's painted by Vivian Shanley, and it basically represents the various festivals of the year. After you've been to the Witchcraft Museum, you can come to this beautiful little cafe with its wonky roof and grab a coffee. It was actually unfortunately completely destroyed in 2004 in the floods, but it is again thriving.